And in a related development, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for the accountability of those behind the crash of passenger plane. This comes after Iran said its military had mistakenly shot down the Ukrainian plane, killing all 176 people on board. In a televised address, Zelensky said he agreed with the Iranian president, Mr. Hassan Rouhani, on a joint probe into the incident. In a press briefing, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Iran did the right thing by admitting that it shot down the jet. He also said Canada wants clear answers from Iran to determine whether the plane was shot down mistakenly. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has left for Iran amid heightened tensions in the Middle East. In a statement, the Foreign Office said Qureshi will meet Iranian counterpart Jawad Zarif to discuss the situation after the killing of Major General Qasem Soleimani. He will visit Riyadh on January 13th to hold talks with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. During the meetings, Qureshi will stress the need for finding peaceful and diplomatic solutions to the conflicts. Now, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has arrived in Saudi Arabia as part of a 5-day trip to the Middle East to help ease regional tensions. Abe's delegation was received by senior officials, including Economy Minister Mohammed Al Tuwairji and Riyadh Governor Prince Faisal bin Bandar bin Abdul Aziz. Abe will make a trip to the historical site of Al Ula, where he will have a meeting with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He will travel to the UAE on Monday for a meeting with Crown Prince Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. The Japanese Prime Minister will also visit Oman, where a new ruler was sworn in yesterday. During the trip, Abe will brief leaders to the three countries on the deployment of Japanese self-defense forces to the Middle East. At a time of heightened tensions in the Middle East, South Korea has summoned Iran's ambassador after he implied bilateral ties could suffer if Seoul dispatched naval forces to the Strait of Hormuz. Ambassador Badamchi Shivestari made the remarks in an interview last week. The Iranian envoy denied directly mentioning the possible severing of diplomatic ties. South Korea's foreign ministry lodged a protest over his remarks. The U.S. has been pressuring South Korea to join its maritime security campaign in waters off Iran. Moving on to Syria, where airstrikes by the government coalition have killed 18 civilians in northwest province of Idlib. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 6 children were among those killed. It said 7 civilians were killed in Idlib city, while 11 others were killed in raids on 2 towns near the provincial capital. Idlib is the last major rebel-held bastion in Syria after 8 years of war. This comes hours before a ceasefire brokered by Russia and Turkey is expected to go into effect. Now, Indian troops have martyred 2 more Kashmiri youths in Pulwama district of the occupied valley. The occupying forces have martyred 6 Kashmiris in the running month so far. The civilians were martyred during a cordon and search operation in the trial area of the district. The report said the operation started earlier this morning. The occupied valley is reeling under New Delhi's curfew and communications blackout for the past 161 days. Muslim televangelist Dr. Zakir Naik says New Delhi offered him safe return in exchange for support over occupied Kashmir issue. Naik is currently living in self-exile in Malaysia since 2016, facing charges of hate speech and inciting terrorism. In a video message, Naik said an Indian government representative met him in Malaysia under direct orders of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Naik said he was asked to support India's decision of revoking Article 370 of the Indian Constitution. The televangelist said he refused the offer as the step is unconstitutional and takes away the rights of Kashmiris. He said the representative said New Delhi wants to use his connections to improve relations with Muslim countries. Now, in the battle for Tripoli, forces loyal to Libya's General Khalifa Haftar have accepted a joint call by Turkey and Russia for a ceasefire. On Wednesday, Turkey and Russia asked Libya's warring parties to declare a ceasefire in a conflict drawing increasing foreign involvement. Libyan National Army spokesman Ahmed al-Mismari announced Haftar's forces agree to the truce but will respond harshly if the ceasefire is violated.
The General Command of the Arab Libyan Armed Forces announces a ceasefire in the western region effective as 24:01 hours on January 12, 2020, conditional that the other party enforces a ceasefire at the same time.
Now, earlier, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said Berlin will host talks to find a solution to the Libyan conflict. She was addressing a joint press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. In Nigeria's northeastern Borno state, 5 militia members were killed by ISIS fighters in an offensive. Authorities have recruited local hunters as a militia to guard the town after the withdrawal of the Nigerian military. Militia leader Babakura Kolo said that ISIS fighters attacked Gajiram town from their pickup trucks fitted with machine guns. He said assaults targeting troops and residents have increased recently in this state. The decade-long conflict in northeast Nigeria has killed 36,000 people and displaced around 2 million more. Meanwhile, Boko Haram militants have killed 4 villagers and kidnapped 4 women in western Chad. Now, security officials say the fighters attacked the village of Ilom along the border of Nigeria. The insurgent group has been waging attacks in Nigeria for the past 10 years. It has spread around the area bordering Cameroon and Chad. Last month, they killed 14 fishermen in the nearby village of Kaiga and kidnapped 13 others. Moving on to Venezuela, where opposition leader Juan Guaido has ruled out resumption of negotiations with President Nicolas Maduro. Guaido told his supporters in Caracas, Maduro administration had repeatedly deceived the public and therefore cannot be trusted. More in this report.
Norway mediated negotiations last year, but the talks broke down in August after both sides accused each other of breaking terms. Earlier this week, Guaido survived dramatic attempts to remove him as head of the National Assembly. Venezuela's self-declared acting president, Guaido has called for new protests to drive out Maduro.
We need to go out onto the streets to protest, to demand in an organized way together, to put pressure. Never again, never will we go down on our knees before the dictatorship. We will never stay silent whilst we are oppressed.
Despite the political and financial crisis, Maduro retains the military support, while according to polls, Guaido's popularity has fallen below 40%.
Moving on, tens of thousands have marched in Glasgow calling for a second referendum on Scotland's independence. Organisers said almost 80,000 pro-independence demonstrators took part in the march as strong gusts swept through Glasgow. These participants carried pro-Scottish banners and paid homage to pro-Catalan independence movement in Spain. The pro-independence march was organised by All Under One banner, a Scottish independence group established back in 2014. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has offered a major concession to unions after weeks of protests against his pension reforms. In a letter to unions, PM Philippe said the government is ready to scrap a proposal to raise the retirement age to 64. The overture comes as protesters clashed with police in Paris. Yellow Vest lawyers and teachers also joined the protest. Demonstrators broke shop windows, set bins on fire, and threw projectiles at the police, who responded with tear gas. Unions said the protest attracted nearly 400,000 demonstrators. Welcome back. More news in detail. 11 migrants, including 8 children, are killed after their boat capsized off Turkey's western coast. Turkish state media says 8 others are rescued from the Aegean Sea near the town of Sesme. It said the Turkish Coast Guard carried out the rescue operation. The boat capsized just hours after another boat sank in the Aegean Sea near the Greek island of Paxi, leaving 12 dead. The nationality of the victims is not yet known. Indian government's data shows there have been almost 1,500 acid attacks in the country in 5 years. In a report, the Indian National Crime Records Bureau presented data from 2014 to 2018. The data showed 623 individuals were attacked by acid in 2017 and 2018. The report also points out only 149 attackers were charge-sheeted in each year. It said Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal and Delhi are among 10 first states with the highest number of acid attacks. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison has expressed regret over his handling of the bushfire crisis. In an interview, he said he will propose a judiciary inquiry into the response to the disaster. As the fires claimed another firefighter's life, the Prime Minister faces criticism for his government's climate policy. The Australian bushes are burning for nearly 3 months now and have killed 28 people. Morrison rejected criticism that his government had not done enough before the bushfire season started. He also pledged $76 million as extra fund to help affected communities cope with foreseeable mental health issues. Morrison said the Royal Commission will be appointed after consultations with the states.
First step, I think, I think there's obviously a need for a national review of the response. And let's not forget, they're not finished yet. I think that is what would be necessary, and I'll be taking a proposal through Cabinet to that end. But it must be done. But it must be done in consultation with the states and territories.
Now, meanwhile, in Australia, thousands of people are rallying across the country, calling for attention to climate change and the ongoing bushfires. They expressed anger over the government's handling of the crisis. This report has the details.
Since September last year, about 18 million acres of Australia have burned in one of the country's worst fire seasons on record. The fires have killed at least 27 people and destroyed almost 2,000 homes since then. The blazes have also affected an estimated 1 billion animals. The blazes turned skies orange and made breathing the air in Sydney as bad as smoking 37 cigarettes. To protest the government's handling of the ongoing crisis, thousands of people marched in Sydney.
That's criminal, really. I mean, the number of people that have suffered and the number of people that continue to suffer and the businesses that will suffer, it's just really appalling what the government's done.
A similar rally was also held in Melbourne. Protesters said the impact of climate change should not be ignored anymore.
If there is a war, we react really quick. We just go straight. Like, we are ready to go in less than a week. But there is a bushfire, and for some reason, we need to take weeks to prepare. I don't know. We could have stopped this before it started.
Authorities have been scrambling to respond with thousands of firefighters on the ground and billions of dollars allocated in federal aid. But climate activists say it's not enough.
To celebrate the Spring Dazzling Light Show Festival has been kicked off in the Chinese Sichuan province. A lantern show attracted thousands of visitors on the first day. This report has more.
The Diyang Lantern Show is China's traditional event during the Spring Festival. This year, the traditions have been perfectly combined with modern technologies, offering an audio-visual feast to the visitors. A total of 18 themed landscapes and 56 sets of lights and water screen projections are arranged with a sense of fashion.
This year's lantern show is very different from the previous traditional ones. It is so festive and jolly here, bringing back many beautiful childhood memories.
Recreational facilities and delicious snacks were also offered to the visitors. Thousands of people across the country are reuniting in their hometowns to greet the new lunar year.
We hope that through this lantern show, the residents in Dayang can have a happy and prosperous new year. We also hope to bring more joy to everyone visiting the lantern show.
The lantern show will run till February 16 as a measure of the local government to boost festival tourism.
Now let's look at how the weather is faring around the world. 11 people are dead due to massive storms sweeping across parts of southern U.S., bringing high winds and heavy rain. Around 1,000 flights were cancelled and hundreds of thousands were without power in 5 states, namely Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Deaths were reported in Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas. The states of Missouri, Oklahoma, and Arkansas suffered property damage but reported no injuries. More than 20 million people remain at risk of tornadoes and flooding, with Alabama said to be most at risk. The storms also brought damaging tornadoes to Alabama, Kentucky, and Mississippi. And a quick look at the temperatures across the globe. For the latest updates, you could follow us on social media at indus.news. For the meanwhile, that's all. We'll be seeing you at the top of the hour.